Hey everybody, how's it going? This video is a little bit different. I thought I'd talk about the Sisters of Battle because we have half the codex, half the chapter approved White Dwarf Codex out, and I was gonna wait until we had the other half, but I thought I'd do my video now, maybe a video later, see if my opinion and perceptions and thoughts change after getting the full thing. But as you know, this codex you see here is pretty much done. If you play Sisters of Battle, or I should say if you play Witch Hunters, get your games in now before you can't play any official games. That probably made it sound weird. Until you can't play any official games with it anymore. Because you will be having the Sisters of Battle. Now, it's going to be a long video. I'm going to go over some stuff, as well, a little bit more, I guess, fluffy, and explaining, I guess, in my opinion, why certain changes were done, and why I think certain changes are fine, due to fluff and due to reasoning. And then I'll go over a little bit about some of the stuff that's in the actual White Dwarf Codex. So firstly, if you have the White Dwarf thing, you probably noticed that there is no Inquisitorial forces in the Sisters of Battle army. You may be going, wait a minute, how can you have Witch Hunters without the Witch Hunters? Well, it's not. It's a Codex Sisters of Battle is what it would be called, just like Codex Grey Knights. And if you're wondering why there is no Inquisitorial, no Ordo Hereticus, which is the Witch Hunter stuff, that's because you have the Inquisitorial Ordos. Ordo Xenos, which is Alien Hunters, Ordo Hereticus, which is Witch Hunters, Ordo Malleus, and Demon Hunters. Then you have the Ecclesiarchy. Now, the Sisters of Battle are the Chamber Militant, the official Chamber Militant of the Ecclesiarchy. They did some whining and clever conniving with the wordplay to get a Chamber Militant force, because, you know, they have to have one because they're whining like that. But that's where the Sisters of Battle are. That's where they belong, so to speak. That's their origin. They are not a Chamber Militant for the Inquisitorial forces, whereas Deathwatch and, which is an amalgamation of chapters, I know, but Deathwatch and Grey Knights, they are official militant chambers, if you will, of the Inquisitorial forces. So, the whole reason you see Sisters of Battle with Witch Hunters is because their philosophies, their beliefs, and what they actively do are so similar that the Ecclesiarchy will loan them out, so to speak. And that's not the best way to put it, but I think it's the easiest way to understand it. They basically are an unofficial Chamber Militant for the Witch Hunters, but they're by no means actually a part of them. They're two separate entities. So that's why you have no Inquisitorial forces in the Sisters of Battle chapter approved codex. Also, you don't have it there. I think this whole thing is a bit of a band-aid codex. I usually call these chapter approved stuff band-aid codices, and we really only had Blood Angels recently that used to have something like this. A band-aid until they eventually get to the book. And probably they did it for some reason, and with the reasoning here, I bet has something to do partially with the Grey Knights Codex, because the way Inquisitors, Assassins, and Special Character Inquisitors work in the Grey Knight Codex is different from the Witch Hunters book. So, they did away with the Witch Hunters book. Will it ever come back? I have no idea. But this is a Band-Aid Codex until they eventually make a new codex for the Sisters of Battle. Whether it's a pure Sisters of Battle codex or it's going to have Inquisitorial elements again in it, I have no idea. Being that they want every codex to be kind of different, and the Witch Hunters and Demon Hunter books were kind of similar except for, you know, Grey Knights and Sisters of Battle, I'm willing to bet they won't include Inquisitorial stuff in a Sisters of Battle codex if they ever got an official book in the future. And my opinion, by the way, is that they always should have an official book. Any army that's going to be an official, full-on army should have its own book. But, anyway, this is a Band-Aid codex, as I like to call it. It'll do. The Blood Angels Band-Aid codex they had years ago did fine. I think this one will do alright also. So, that's the first thing, I guess. Kind of giving you some fluff and some reasonings why there is no more Inquisition with the Sisters of Battle. fluffy bits and all that is they are not an official chamber militant for the Inquisition. They are an official chamber militant of the Ecclesiarchy, and not fluff stuff, keeping the rules different. Or keeping, codices different and not having different rules for the same unit. Because they were very different. Or I should say are very different. So, with that being said, let's look at some of the generic special rules. Actually, before doing that, chances are, once both parts are out, once the other White Dwarf comes out with the second half of the Sisters of Battle Codex, and by the way, this is the current one with the Sisters of Battle in it, then you'll have both halves, obviously. And I'm willing to bet that after the second half comes out, I don't know when exactly, but that they will release it online as a PDF. They did that with the Blood Angels, and they definitely should for this. There's no reason they shouldn't. Think about it. A couple months down the line, somebody new goes onto Games Workshop's website, sees the Sisters of Battle, and likes the look of the army, likes the fluff of the read on it. But it's a couple months down the line. They're not guaranteed to find the White Dwarfs necessary at a local gaming shop or hobby shop to do it. Should be online. Probably will be. I hope it's sooner rather than later. Also makes it easier than carrying on 2 White Dwarf issues just to have an army. With that being said, one thing I think they should do in the future is, instead of having 2 issues, and a reason why people who don't want to buy White Dwarf have to spend money on 2 issues, I guess that's why they do it. One of the reasons why they do it. But something else that I'd like to see is a lengthy article on the particular chapter-approved codex in question. Maybe have a couple, maybe actually have, the special rules in there and talk a bit about it. But they should have a lengthy article, but have the codex online ready to go right away. No having 2 parts of this, just one PDF right away to go. That way you can play it as soon as it's released instead of waiting for another issue of White Dwarf. That's just my opinion. But with that being said, let's look a little bit into this first half of the codex. Now, once we get to the second half, I'll do a pretty extensive review of the Sisters of Battle Codex, because I can show you it. I could physically show you it if I wanted to, like I'm doing here, or talk about it fully in depth, because it's available to everybody. And once they put it online, it's free for everybody, which I'm sure probably is always kind of like a kick in your side a little bit. But you got it right away instead of waiting. But anyway, so I will be going in depth on these guys because it will be available to everyone. That being said, let's look at it a bit. Right now we just have the stat line, a little bit of fluff, the unit type, the special rules for the unit, any definition of any specific special rule for that unit, and the war gear, and if necessary, any definition on the war gear. So, with that being said, they added a Sororitas Sisters of Battle Command Squad. Interesting. They have the Ecclesiarchy Priests and Battle Conclave. The Battle Conclave is kind of like an inquisitorial retinue in terms of some of the units they can take. So if you had a heavy Inquisition army with elements of the Sisters of Battle working together, because that's what you collected, I am sorry to say you can't have that anymore working together effectively, unless you use some serious counts as. But some of those models won't go to waste in terms of that if you want to use them in a Ecclesiarchy Battle Conclave. And if depending how many models you have of each Witch Hunters and Sisters of Battle, you could have 2 separate armies there. Anyways, basically, they changed the special rules for the army a bit. First off, force weapons count as force weapons against the army now. It used to be a thing where they only count as power weapons, so you couldn't activate the instant kill, their multi-wound models. Honestly, didn't care for that rule, only because the only multi-wound models I've ever seen being played for these Sisters of Battle was a Canoness. It's one model in the entire army that would benefit from the rule. Not the best. Granted, I'm sure somewhere it has saved that Cannon S from being obliterated, but honestly, not the biggest thing to worry about. So they got rid of that. They changed faith points and acts of faith around a lot. And quite frankly, I enjoy the way it is now. It's more consistent. You have the ability to do acts of faith every turn. That's great. Before you had a set amount, once it was gone, it was gone. I mean, you could kind of get some back, but as you're getting them back, it was harder and harder to do more acts of faith because you lost the faithful models that made the unit faithful unless the unit was already faithful. It's kind of, I don't want to say complicated, but it was a bit technical. Now it's pretty easy to understand how to do it. It gets a little technical with the pluses you get to the roll, but it should be pretty obvious now, and all of the abilities you can activate and know how to activate. I mean, in the past, in the Witch Hunter's book, certain roles required you to roll over the squad size, certain roles required you to roll under the squad size, and you had to know which one was which, and if you did it, and you know, when you did it, if your unit was too big or too small, oops, stuff like that. So now's, I would say, a little bit more consistent for activating a power. Yes, the powers have changed. No more Spirit of the Martyr that gave you that invuln save, but Spirit of the Martyr is there as something different for the Sisters of Repentia. Each squad of Sisters of Battle has, including the Canoness and the Command Squad, has a act of faith that they can do. One thing I will say, I like them, except I think Dominion squads and Retributor squads should have had their acts of faith switched. I think if you switch them, and I'll go into that in another video, a later video, I think they work better switched. Just my personal opinion. So with that being said, pretty much the Army Special rules are now faith points, acts of faith, independent characters and acts of faith, so going over that, and shield of faith. That's it. The acts of faith, instead of being a table, are per the unit. You roll d6 at the beginning of your movement phase all the time. That's how many points you have for that turn, pretty much. The last big rule, which I want to go over, is Shield of Faith. It's a 6+ invulnerability save for anything with that rule, which is pretty much everything Sisters of Battle oriented, including their vehicles, which is pretty cool. It's a 6+ invulnerability save, not the greatest, but I will say from experience with Deathwing, there we go. With Deathwing, with my 5+ invuln saves, unless I had Storm Shields, for the most part I was using 5+, because I have shooting squads. Granted, 5+ better than 6+, but it's nice to have something that gives you the opportunity to save at least a couple of models. That's the difference between a kill point, and that could cost you the game, to at least tie the game or win the game because they did not obliterate that squad in that shooting or whatever. That can mean a difference there. And it's always nice to be able to go, hold on, I might survive this. It gives a little bit of a mind game against your opponent. Also, having any vehicles is where I like it the most. It's like having a weak form or smoke launchers activated all the time, and that's cool. I personally think that's cool. Again, another way in which you have the potential to survive, and the potential to survive, even if it's slim, is better than not having that potential at all. So if you were caught high and dry out of cover, instead of being wiped off the map, your Sisters of Battle now have a 1 in 6 chance of surviving, and that can mean the difference, like I said, from holding an objective even, as well as giving up a kill point. So I like that. I'm not saying this is the best thing for the Sisters of Battle, but as a Band-Aid Codex, I think it'll do okay. Really have to wait to see the point cost and what upgrades they can take. Like, for example, I really hope the Canoness can take a Rosarius or something like that, instead of relying on having just a 6+ invulnerability save, but we'll see. And it'll be interesting to see what the squads can take and how it differs a bit. But I think Sisters should be happy for having Frag and Crack Grenade standard now, instead of having to spend points on them. So that's pretty cool. Anyways, just wanted to go over that. A bit of a long video, I know, but more to come when the second part comes out and then in the future after that. So, until next time, take it easy.